oyster mushrooms crowned our hearts and stomachs with images resembling oyster shells that had just come out of the sea. These beautiful, diverse mushrooms, which have found their place almost everywhere from market stalls to market shelves, continue to add flavor to our meals. Let's get acquainted with this delicious mushroom that leaves an imprint on the palate with its taste that reaches the top when it comes with a little garlic and onions. And let's discover all its features from its cultivation to its benefits. What is oyster mushroom? Fresh mushrooms. Fresh mushrooms. Scientific name, Pleurotus austriatus, also known as poplar mushroom. This delicious mushroom was first cultivated in Germany for survival during World War I. Since then, interest in oyster mushrooms has grown and has established itself as a commercial food worldwide with its taste and appearance. It has a great place in Japanese, Korean and Chinese cuisines. The reason why it is also known as leaf mushroom or beech mushroom is due to the fact that it grows on the trunks of beech and poplar trees in nature. Oyster mushroom production. How are oyster mushrooms grown? Oyster mushrooms are a fungus that is easy to grow. You can easily grow this mushroom even in your home kitchen and enjoy it in your meals. When they appear alone in nature, they usually prefer the higher parts of trees, due to the presence of a lot of oxygen, moisture and dew in those parts. This type of fungus, which is easy to grow especially in northern regions, begins to appear on tree trunks after the late summer incubation period, when the weather becomes cooler in September to October. How does oyster mushroom grow at home? If you want to grow oyster mushrooms at home, you can buy ready-made sets in supermarkets and you can get the mushrooms after several waterings in an environment that provides suitable conditions. Ingredients for growing oyster mushrooms: 10 kilograms of wood chips, 250 grams of mushrooms, mushroom seeds, large thick trash bag. How to grow oyster mushrooms step by step. Spread the sawdust in a thick layer under the garbage bag. Moisten it and sprinkle the seeds of mushrooms called mycelium. Lay a thin layer of sawdust over it this time, moisten it and sprinkle the seeds again. In this way, fill the entire bag on top of the other and tie it tightly. If possible, keep this bag on the balcony for 20 days without touching it. And at the end of the waiting period, trim the sides of your bag with a razor blade. After about 10 days, you will start to see mushrooms. Sprinkle the cuts with water while collecting the mushrooms, and renew the kit after 3 months. How does oyster mushroom grow on tree trunks? First, you need to find a suitable record. You can get a better yield from logs obtained from beech and poplar trees. You can get logs from forest villages or lumber shops. An ideal choice would be a logarithm with an average length of 35 centimeters and a diameter of about 20 cm. Dig holes 5 centimeters deep in the stem at regular intervals. If your log is a freshly cut tree, its moisture is sufficient, but if it is a dry trunk, you can soak it in water to moisten it. Place the oyster mushroom seeds wrapped in straw into the holes you dug and wait for an average of 20 days. At the end of the waiting period, you can collect mushrooms. What are the benefits of oyster mushrooms? Cooking oysters and mushrooms. It helps break down free radicals with its antioxidant properties. Contributes to balancing cholesterol. Thanks to its antibacterial properties, it helps to destroy bacteria like a natural antibiotic. It contains high levels of iron and vitamin B. Supports the immune system. Since it is good for digestion, it also helps in treating constipation. Oyster mushrooms recipe. How to cook oyster mushrooms. Fried oyster mushroom recipe. Fried oyster mushroom recipe. For those who buy oyster mushrooms and are asking, how to cook oyster mushrooms, we have a delicious recipe. Here is a recipe for stir-fry oyster mushrooms that are very practical and full of protein. Fried mussels. Ingredients: 1/2 kilo oyster mushrooms, coarsely chopped, 2 tablespoons olive oil, 1 tablespoon butter, 3 garlic cloves, crushed, 4 sprigs fresh thyme, 1 tablespoon lemon juice, 1 teaspoon paprika, optional. How to make fried mushroom oyster recipe. Add olive oil to the hot skillet and add the previously chopped oyster mushrooms to the skillet. After the mushrooms release their juice, add garlic and lemon juice. After stirring for 2 minutes, add salt, pepper, hot pepper and fresh thyme to the mushrooms. Finally, put the butter in the pan and mix until it melts. After it melts, you can now take the pan off the stove. Click here for the detailed recipe, fried mushroom clams recipe.